everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Monitoring Java Applications on Azure. This episode is an introduction to monitoring on Azure with Java. Please check in on today's event if you have not already done so. The check-in link is on the screen, which is aka.ms/reactor-check-in, and the event ID is 14759. By checking in, you get access to all the event resources and learning parts after the event. The check-in information will also be added on to the chat. Next slide. My name is Rav, and I'm the program manager at Reactor London. You can find all the events related to this series on the Microsoft Reactor website. Before we begin, get into the session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct, which is on the next slide. We are all here to learn, so please be respectful of each other's views, understanding of differences, and be kind and considerate in the way you engage. Today we have with us Rory, who's a cloud advocate at Microsoft, and Tras, who is a principal software engineer at Microsoft. They both will be leading the session. The chat will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. I will now hand over to Rory. Hello, Rory.
How's it, Rav? I love that video, the Reactor session. I want to visit all those cities again and just go and when all the reactors are open, go and see that incredible culture and vibe that I know from the reactors.
Yeah, fingers crossed we should be open by next year. But yeah, I'll hand it over to you now. I'll turn my camera off, but if you need me, I'm here in the background.
Great, thanks so much. We've got a lot to show and some really great examples that we're going to do. So let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Rory Preddy, and I'm a cloud advocate, a developer advocate for Microsoft, focusing on Azure and Java. I also do accessibility and diversity for Microsoft. Now, what we're going to do today, we're going to show you monitoring with Java, but you could also apply a lot of what we're saying to monitoring with any application on Java. So if you want to get started on learning monitoring with Java, we're going to be going through in the next 4 sessions. So this is session 1 out of 4. And we're going to be using a lot of the examples that you see here with that URL, https://aka.ms/monitor.java. So this is a learn module that I authored that takes you through and scripts out a lot of the examples and the technologies that you're going to be seeing. Also follow us on Twitter, Rory Preddy and Trask. And we are going to swap over to Tras, who's got a really nice demo that is going to show you some of the basics of monitoring after I've concluded in just wowing you with some slideware. So let's start. So first, let's go through the pillars of observability. So what is observability? So observation of a cloud technology is being able to look at it and react. And when you react, you want to use tools and technologies, and then you want to make adjustments to your applications to respond to that. So the first pillar is the form pillar. And in the form pillar, it's got sub-pillars, it's got logs. So can you look at text-based representations for data, and can you query those logs? Then it's got traces. Now, a trace is kind of similar to logs, but traces are more aligned to, they're like more digital in that sense, and you can use traces to make more deductions. Then we have metrics. So metrics might be CPU, it might be memory, it might be a custom metrics. And then finally, we have alerts. So put these all together between logs, traces, metrics, and alerts. And it allows you really to take observability to the next level using tools and technologies, which is our next pillar, which is platforms. Now, platforms has sub-pillars of Azure Log Analytics. So if you look at the forms, it kind of matches for there. So Log Analytics kind of goes with logs and metrics. Now, then we have alerts, which goes with the forms of alerts. Application Insights, which is a trace management tool, which allows you to trace your code and see exactly where and how the traces are formed. And then finally, third-party applications of a platform. Now, we support many third-party applications. So you can use your forms in Azure and get your logs, metrics, traces, and alerts. You can use the platforms, log analytics, alerts, or application insights, but you can also use third-party to look at how you can help with your observability. So we support all of these monitoring and analytics partners, everything from Splunk to Datadog to Dynatrace. But at the same time, we're going to be demoing using only one. We're going to be demoing using Azure Monitor. So Azure Monitor is actually a tool and a technology that we use, and it's very similar to a lot of those tools and analytics that our partners use, though. But it's built in and baked into Azure. So it's got native support for the Azure platform. So it has consistency, completeness, easy onboarding, because it looks and feels exactly like you know the Azure portal and a lot of the processes to be. It's got enterprise readiness, so it's got an SLA link to it. It's got security and compliance, and you can get easy management. It's got deep diagnostics and insights. So customers say to us, listen, if you're going to give us a tool there, you have to match a lot of the third-party tools. So we've really got log analytics, rich insights, and distributed tracing using open telemetry that runs with Azure Monitor. A rich ecosystem. So it's open source using open telemetry. We've got DevOps, IT integration, and partner support even for Azure Monitor. So we can actually plug in partner programs into Azure Monitor. So now that we know what we're going to be looking at in the next 4 sessions, let's look at the roles in monitoring and how Azure Monitor can facilitate that. So you've got your developer, you've got your IT ops personnel, and then your network admin. So your developer might want to monitor your apps, your IT ops, your infrastructure, and then your network admin, your network. So normally you would use Azure Monitor, and you would get continuous monitoring across app, infrastructure, and network. So you've got your developers, your IT ops, and your network admin, and you use Azure Monitor to monitor your apps, network, and your infrastructure with analytics and AI. So let's look exactly how you would use Azure Monitor. So over here, we have a sample application app architecture. This is typically what we see when a developer comes to us and says, we've got an app to monitor. They don't just have one little app running on a website. They have a technology stack where they use multiple elements of Azure Monitor. You can see each one of these here has Azure Monitor in the top, Azure Monitor, Azure Monitor, Azure Monitor. And then underneath there is a kind of a sub-technology. And remember the kind of the pillar that I showed you there. So each one of these sub-technologies is an aspect of Azure Monitor, but it's a sub-product of Azure Monitor. So Application Insights is the tracing tool that we use on with Azure Monitor. But Azure Monitor is kind of the big brother, the dad, the parent of all of these tools. So for user access, we would use Azure Monitor, and we'd use Application Insights to go in and trace that. So for example, user access might be login from a device or an HTML page or a web browser, and you'd use Application Insights to trace the login there, or log analytics for using Application Insights using Azure Monitor. So once you have your user log in, then they usually access a microservice application with a front-end app. So that app might run .NET or Node or Python or Java. And then you've got Application Insights that is going to monitor your microservice application. And also, if your microservices might run containers, we've just launched container apps or Kubernetes, you might want to use Container Insights. And this scans those containers and gives you insight into exactly what containers are running, what nodes, and what the control plane for your Kubernetes cluster really is running. Your containers then run, and your microservices connect to databases and storage. And then you would use Azure Monitor with the metrics and logs sub-access, and also Cosmos DB Insights if you're going to use Cosmos for our NoSQL database, and then storage insights for your storage and your file-based and blob storage. Then you've got your legacy VM workloads, and you're going to use VM Insights. So it's a really rich ecosystem. You've got Application Insights, Container Insights, Cosmos DB Insights, Storage Insights, Metrics and Logs, VM Insights, and that's just a few of them. There's actually more that we're going to go through, and I'm going to give you a nice overview of Network Insights to give you a feel for topologies and network topologies. So how does Azure Monitor work? So you've got all of these nice tools and these pillars that you can use. So you've got your application, your infrastructure, your Azure platform itself, and then your custom sources. And they collect that using telemetry into metrics and logs. So what is metrics? It's CPU, it's access to certain custom metrics. And then your logs are your application or your infrastructure is going to put through a funnel of data, and it's going to kind of stream through into your log storage. And once you've got the logs and metrics, you're going to use all of these techniques to go get some observability for your metrics and logs. So first, you're going to get insights. And your insights, we saw it in the previous slide, you're going to get application insights, container insights, VM insights, and network insights. And this gives you a nice view of exactly what's happening with using those metrics and logs. Then you're going to visualize those insights with dashboards, and those are the custom dashboards that you get with application insights, Power BI, and workbooks, your runbooks. You're going to analyze that using Metrics Explorer that gives you analysis views, and Log Analytics, which gives you KQL queries, kind of like SQL queries for your logs and your metrics. You're going to respond with alerts. So if you run above a certain metric, you're going to set an alert, and that's going to trigger a event. You're going to have the alerts then trigger action groups, which might send an email or might send a ping to an administrator. And then you're going to also auto scale. So you're going to set up triggers, kind of like a DevOps trigger, to say on a certain alert, contact an action group, but then also go and do and perform some kind of different function on your cloud. And then finally, you're going to integrate. So on your alerts, you might want to send some data through to event hubs that you can actually go send to downstream systems. You might have logic apps, which might even send a tweet or a Twitter or an SMS to administrators, and then ingest and export the APIs and send down to third-party systems. So how do you get all of this data? Now that we know that we can get the data. So one is via the application. You get it via Application Insights SDK or an agent. You can run an agent on a application. You can go and get this information. You can also, with the application, Azure Application Service, it's built in. So we use the OpenTelemetry agent, and it's built into your service. So you get that agent without having to set it up. You can also run in your infrastructure. You can run agents there, Windows and Linux support, and it's workload agnostics. And the agent there would just run on your VM and send through telemetry through to Azure Monitor. If you have Azure resources and a subscription and a tenant, you have zero instrumentation for login metrics then for those resources. So your logs and metrics will automatically be funneled through. And then if you've got custom resources, you can also send REST API all the way through to Azure Monitor and get your metrics and logs. So that's how you do data collection and onboarding. So now let's look at all the scenarios that you can have when you actually get all of that data in there. So the first scenario is a application map. So this is using Application Insights, the application map, and this gives you your traces. So this is commonly what we call a trace. So you've got your front end, which will then go through a worker or a application. You can see there's a payment pricing worker or an authentication worker. And then from the worker, you would go into an inventory management system and a inventory store and an inventory cache. So that's a storage account, and that's a Redis cache. And then over here, the worker would contact a external website, a payment system, and also a event bus or a database. So this is distributed tracing. Now, each one of these here, you can see it says one instance and how many errors or how many traces it has. It has a lot of diagnostics on the application map. You can see there, it's got 2.1 thousand calls there. And then you can look at the payment process worker. If you select the payment process worker, you can see that it's selected blue there. And you can investigate the performance and get analytics there. So one is you can investigate the failures, you can investigate the performance, and then you can also go to the detail for the failed request, or you can also go into the slowest request by name. So drilling down to each one of those, you might also find that you can drill down and you get access to a Kubernetes cluster. So this is container insights. Remember what I said there? You've got application map, And these are container insights. And this is a Minecraft server here. So you've got the Minecraft, and this is the Redmond Minecraft server there. Let me go back there. And it's a pod. It's a Vue Kubernetes cluster pod on container insights. And in the container insights, you have statuses, you have the pod name, and whether the pod actually is warm, so meaning that it has started or it's waiting to be assigned, or if it's currently running. And then you've got the startup time, the containers, how many runnings, how many restarts, the uptime, the node that it's running on, and then also trends and analytics if you bring the container up multiple times, and all of the other container logistics here. You've got the Kubernetes dashboards, the proxies, and this is container insights. You get a lot of nice little views with container insights. Once you have that, let's see now if you can set up some alerts. So here's our alerting, and this is the alerting structure here. You can see that's the application insights that we were just on, which also allows you to kind of have container insights. But alerts allows you to set up thresholds. So you can actually set up alert rules, and you can set up action groups. So your alert rules might be the CPU is too high, and your action groups might be on the CPU is too high, then go trigger the alert group and go and send a SMS. So you can see there, I've got severity 1 to 4, how many alerts are there, and then how many have been acknowledged by the action group. So then once you have those alerts, you can also go in and do some analytics on your, you can see there, on your alerting via KQL query. So this is a plot chart to monitor the SLA on a Azure database. And what this does here, it actually goes in and sees, wait a second, there is more than 10-second request processing time for an Azure database there. And we run that using KQL and in the actual log view here. And we'll go through a few of these examples here, but this is a nice kind of show to say there is an alert here, and we're looking up those alerts for the smart diagnostics. And you can see there we ran into an SLA issue with that query. So what about dashboards? We see now that you can use application insights and container insights and alerts, but you also want to be able to send this through to a administrative team, and you can with the built-in dashboards. You can see there, this is the built-in dashboards that are available with application insights. So here's your application, and here's your security tab. So all of that is application. All of that is security. Under your application, you've got your REST calls and how many were called, how many failed requests. You've got your users, so it will instrument the actual browsers or the actual client there on how many users, and also where were they from. So you can see Brazil and United States. The overall timeline, so how many milliseconds each call took on the app. The availability tests, so you can set up, wait a second, that microservice was available, or what percentage availability it did or didn't have. The application map, which we saw previously in the application insights, and also what are the kind of pathways or any errors of the pathways, how many servers are up, the actual link through to the workspaces there. On the security, we've got the anti-malware assessment. We've got the system update assessment, the network security groups analysis, the service map, the performance monitor, the VM compute. So you can actually do how many VMs and what the status is, and then the container monitoring solution. So this is a nice example of all the dashboard options you can get with the built-in dashboards. So once you have all of that, you also want to hand this over to your diagnostics, your network settings, and your network admin. And you can use application insights to monitor your application layer, which gives you client-side network metrics and network connection time. But you can also use VM insights to get your network dependency logs on your VMs for your network access. But the best way to do that really is to have a network performance monitor solution. So you can have on-premise network. So you've got service connectivity monitor, network performance monitor. And then inside your Azure Cloud, you can use network insights and network monitor. So this network performance monitor is run on-premise. And then you use an express route monitor to go into your Azure Cloud network. And you can use the network resource health, the topology and connection monitor, the flow logs and traffic analysis with network insights and network monitor. And this is how it looks like. So this is the dashboard that you get, and you can see how incredible the insight is that you get with Network Monitor. So this is a traffic analysis for Network Monitor, and you've got 2 data centers. We've got West Central US, and also we've got Europe, and this is a built-in dashboard you can actually use. We're using traffic analysis on the Network Monitor. So this is Network Monitor, and you can also use Network Insights. So Network Monitor allows you to look at all of those link throughs of your private networks and your public networks, and you can see that you've got inbound connections, outbound connections, and you can trace through all of those into each of the separate network ports and the DCs. So let's look at alerts now. So on your alerts, we already defined how you can query alerts, but you can also go in and you can define alerts, but you can suppress alerts. So let's just say you receive a lot of false alerts like DDoS attacks or just ping alerts. You can suppress alerts, or you can create action groups. So you create that alert, you can filter the query, and you can suppress that alert, and then you can create suppress configuration. And then on the suppression there, you can say, listen, I don't care about network access or alerts that come through on weekends, because the app shouldn't be running on weekends. So suppress them on weekdays or certain events, so you don't actually have a trigger on the incorrect time. You can also configure signal logics. So what signal logic means that you can configure alerts based either on static alert logic or dynamic. So if you have a certain amount of data available for you on your alerts, you can see that the threshold there is the light blue, or is a little bit higher than the dark blue. And what that does, it means that you can actually set a threshold to greater than, less than, count, and threshold sensitivity medium, meaning that if it hits there at the top of the light blue or the bottom of the light blue to a medium threshold, so maybe about there and there, it will actually trigger. So it actually uses AI to say it is going to go above a certain level, and you don't have to kind of set that threshold. It will use dynamic threshold as alert logic to set that alert, and then send you that SMS or that email through to those action groups. So you've got the action groups, and this is how you actually define and you go through an actionable alert management workflow. So you define your actionable alerts, your metrics or logs. You use smart detection or dynamic groups. You can define the severity, and then you set the description on your alerts. And then you can also define auto-scaling and automatic runbooks if you trigger those alerts. So you might want to do alert suppression, like days of the week, or other triggers. If not, and you don't want to suppress that, then you're going to go, can you do auto remediation? So auto remediation means, can you fix it with a script? If yes, then go send an email notification that it is fixed. So let's say that the storage account of your VM or your server is running out, and you've set a metric on that. Can you remediate it with a script and move logs over there? Yes. So then you just send an email notification and you trigger that there. If no, then you would actually go in and log a request to your IT management, bug filling, custom emails, and you would trigger a logic app workflow, or a webhook, or an RT service and incident management, or a schema payload. If it's very high severity, you want to define your action rules at scale, and also SMS push and chat ops. So your action rules, you want to scale up your service to cater for that load, or trigger a workbook. And then you also want to do SMS push and voice with chat ops to make sure that you get through to the person in the middle of the night with their mobile phone. Metrics, logs, and visualization. So let's go through a little bit more of how you can actually go and query your logs. So you access on, this is a virtual machine here, and you've got your logs here, and you're going to get on your virtual machine events, heartbeats, performance, security events, syslog, and you're going to run your query there with some sample queries against your VM. So you can also run your metrics for your monitor. So that was logs, but you can also run your metrics. So over here, we've got our metrics, we've got transactions, some of those transactions there, and it's going to sum those transactions onto your metrics monitor. So you can see there's metrics, and if we access the previous slides there, there's your logs. Once you have your logs and your metrics, you also might want to go through your workbooks. So your workbooks, if you can think, they're like run books. So when I was in RT a long time ago, 10 years ago, we had run books, and you would execute a run book. So you can see there, a run book is failure analysis, demo insights, key metrics, and it will perform certain metrics and get you the runbooks. And then the runbooks can also trigger a DevOps process. So this is DevOps, Azure DevOps here. So it's got manually triggered, and you might have an artifact that could trigger it, and you have a dev environment or a canary environment, and you could check that health with Azure Monitor. You can see it wasn't healthy, and was healthy. And then you can also check active customer tickets on your DevOps process, and you can actually roll back on your DevOps process. So that's everything I wanted to show you. There was a lot to take in. We're going to briefly go through the demo and the kind of homework. So next session, we're going to go through in a lot more detail the workshop, the Azure workshop that I've authored, and you can access that workshop on https://ms/monitor-java, or do that snapshot. So before I hand over to Trask, I'm going to go through exactly what you can expect in that workshop. So that workshop actually goes in and creates microservices using Azure Spring Cloud. So if you don't know Azure Spring Cloud, it's a Kubernetes environment where you don't have to worry about Kubernetes. It takes your Spring application and creates a nice life cycle that a developer understands without you having to worry about Kubernetes. So an example we give you with the monitoring, you can it creates an admin server, an API gateway, a customer service, vet service, and visit service. The classic pet clinic application that you go in and take an animal to a vet and you book a veterinary appointment. And in this example, it creates an Azure Spring Cloud environment, and you get the running instances here and the registered instances here, and it creates a microservice environment. And it gives you the ability to actually go in and look at the application map. You can see there, that's the tracing. Remember, we covered tracing there, and you've got your API gateway, your vet service, your customer service, your visit service, and then the downstream systems, your database, and also your web server. It gives you the ability to look at live metrics. You've got your incoming requests and your overall health. You can also do custom metrics. In this example, you take 3 of the microservices, pet, the visit, pet, the owner, and also the customer service, and you superimpose there to see how many times that was called. The availability, so you're also going to get a little bit of how to set up availability. And remember the nice availability dashboard we saw there, and the testing around that. Once you have that application map, you can drill down into the application map, into the operations and the dependencies. The dependencies are the downstream systems. In this example, it's a MySQL database. You can see there on the MySQL database there, I've got a ignore statement and also a grant or privilege statement there. And we can then drill down to that all the way to the database. In this example, I've got select pets from the owners to get all of the owners for the pets that are in the database. You can also, once you do that, monitor the MySQL database. So this is Query Performance Insights. This is for the Azure database for MySQL. And you can see there, it's got the long-running queries and the weight statistics. And you can access all of the long-running queries and get insights onto your MySQL database. This is different to the database-specific application logs and traces, because this actually goes into the database and analyzes the slow queries and the long-running queries on the database itself. You can also access the logs for the Azure Spring Cloud. In this example here, you see there, I'm running a query there. It's app platform logs for Spring. You can see there over there. And then I've got all of those logs that come back in the actual kind of SQL query kind of format there for that. And that's the logs there over there. I can also access the logs for the database for MySQL. You can see there, I've got the slow logs there in the KQL query. And this is all of the examples there. So that's everything that you're going to get. So just to summarize here, you're going to want to go into that workshop there, and you're going to get a lot more insight in the session 2, 3, and 4, exactly how we did it, and some of the tricks and the trades and some secrets on how we actually created that monitor. So, in that being said, I'm going to hand over to Trask, who's going to go through a really nice demo with you with Azure App Service.
Thanks, Roy. Yeah, so my goal is to show you how easy it is to deploy Java applications into Azure, and how easy it is to get monitoring, all those amazing monitoring graphs and charts that Rory was showing. So, I need to share. All right. So I'm going to also use the famous Spring Pet Clinic app. This is just the simple one node, not the microservices edition. And so let's just quickly pull that down. We can do your typical Maven Spring Boot run just to build and see it running locally. And then we will deploy that into Azure App Services. And I've got to run with -d skip tests. So, run won't run tests. Awesome. So we see we got it started. And if we try it out, yep, all good. All right. So what we want to do is we want to deploy this into Azure. So what we want to do is Maven Azure Web App Maven plugin. So this is a Maven plugin that makes it super easy to deploy it into app services. And the all you need to do is add this plugin into your POM file. So we're going to, we could edit that POM file however we want, but I'm going to just pull up IntelliJ here. Give that a second to load. And we just need to add that into the plugins section and modify. So these are the pieces that describe your deployment. So I'm going to check AZ. We'll also need to be authenticated. So AZ login will pop open a browser. I can authenticate. There we're all good, logged in. AZ account show will give me my subscription ID here. So we will dump that into subscription ID. I'm going to name the resource group that it's going to create, Pet Clinic, after one of my many pets. And we're going to bump up, use a slightly more powerful VM so that the startup time is a little bit faster here for the demo. And that should be it. So let's try. So we're going to build and now run the Azure Web App Maven plugin. And this is, I'm going to skip test just to make that run a little bit faster. And this will take the deployment information that we configured over here, and it's going to go and create a resource group in this subscription. It's going to create an app service deployment with this name in this region. And so let's see what we got. We got created web app, created app service plan. I see resource group, app service plan. While it's running, I will show. Pet clinic is also meaningful to me because I have a lot of pets. So I will show them off while we're waiting here. This is Onyx on the left and Pearl on the right. Here, this is and these slides. I don't think you're supposed to do slides for demos, so these are just my internal slides to keep me on the demo. This is Sugar, and let's see. Let's log into the portal now and see. We should be able to start seeing that web app spinning up. So let's look for Onyx. All right, we've got our Onyx web app. And so we're going to go down and look for, okay, it looks like it's still just spinning up. There we go. So we've got log stream, the always useful log stream. This will show us what's happening on that as the VM and app are starting up. So we see it's still starting. It looks like, so we finished deploying. So the deployment's finished. So now we're just waiting for it to start up. If we go to the URL, we will get, so we didn't get Pet Clinic yet. This is the just the default app that's running until Pet Clinic starts up. So we will give it a couple minutes, another minute or two here for it to start. All right, here comes Pet Clinic. Just waiting for, yep, there we go. Tomcat started. So we should be able to refresh here. And get Pet Clinic. All right. But this is all about monitoring. So deploying is easy, but let's see how we can get monitoring. So application insights is the application level monitoring that Roy was talking about. This is the product that I lead engineering internally for Java. And so and you can use it outside of app services. You can use it anywhere. It is a Java agent that you can just add to your command line. It's super easy to onboard. But in app services, it's even easier. You just click a button and say yes, apply. And behind the scenes, we will add the latest Java agent into your app, link that into your app, and add that to the JVM command line args and restart your app. So that's what's happening right now is it is restarting the app now with the Java agent enabled. And again, we can go back to the log stream here to watch what's happening. Let's see, there we go. Oh, there's the command line arg that we added for the -Java agent. And we can see that the Java agent started successfully. And Spring Pet Clinic is coming up. All right, so let's go and see what that means. If we go back here to the Application Insights, we can hop over to the Application Insights resource. And let's go and check out Live Metrics is wonderful because you can see what's happening right away. It gives you nice feedback that, yes, everything is working. I've started my app. It's being monitored. So let's go back to and click around a little bit in the Pet Clinic app. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And let's click on the error page a couple times to generate a couple of errors. And let's look in the live metrics. So we can see all of those clicks were registered. Here's a couple of errors that occurred. We can see later this, I believe, was a 404. And then let's hop down to the application map. So application map, Rory showed in the lab that he's designed has a really cool full microservices app with multiple nodes, API gateway, all these that creates a really nice, you can really see the power of the application map. But just for a simple app like this, we can see already the application map shows us, just real basic topology of our application. We've got the Spring Pet Clinic is running the embedded H2 database. We see that we're making calls there. We see that there's some errors already. Let's look at our errors. So let's investigate our failures. Here's those two error pages, the error page I clicked on twice, and here's that 404. We can drill into that request and see that this was, let's see, robots URL 404. So nothing we need to worry about there. And so let's go back. And so that was the application map. Other really useful is the next place you'll want to look for any performance problems is the performance page here. And we can see that all the requests are broken down by the Spring controller that's handling that request. So you get a nice granular display of which controllers, which parts of your application are slow, without it being overwhelming by this high cardinality number of URLs. So operations, these are requests. As Rory mentioned, dependencies are outgoing requests from your application downstream. So that could be downstream to another microservice, or in our case here, downstream to the SQL database. And then for failures, we can also drill in here. We kind of saw this linking through same view from the application map. And oh yeah, let's go in the performance. One thing that's over here, we can see our percentiles of responses, and we can say, hey, let's see what's up with these requests way out here in the 90th percentile. We can drill into these samples. open, pick one of them to open, and we can see the end-to-end transaction details of that request with all of the downstream queries that it made. And what's really cool is to see in the lab, Rory's lab, once you, or in your own app, even better, is when you have these microservices apps, the application insights agent, which Rory mentioned, is built on it's an open telemetry agent. It propagates the distributed trace headers downstream. And so that allows, if you've instrumented all of your nodes with the application insights, it will stitch all of those together, and you'll see that complete end-to-end transaction view here. So application insights also captures logs and application logs and application metrics. So it will capture logs from log4j, logback, and Java util logging. And so the nice thing here when those are captured via application insights is that those will be correlated with your requests. So you'll be able to pop down here, and I don't have an example here, but if there were, say, a warn error or warn log, it would show up correlated with this request. Or you could do vice versa. You find a log and you want to see, hey, what was the full request that went along with this log? That you can find that. And then finally, metrics also. So it captures application level metrics. So with Spring, for example, it will capture micrometer, Spring Boot actuator metrics. So with the Spring Pet Clinic that we just deployed, you just automatically are getting all these metrics that are provided by Spring. And so you can use those, again, to drive all the alerting and dashboards and runbooks that Rory was talking about. And I think that's it. I will hand it back to Rory or Rav.
Trask. You make it seem so easy that you can just, create an app and pop it on there and just got telemetry and everything like that. I remember having to write agents that ran on these applications, and they would go in and we would go and scrape the log files. And then from those log files, we would go and create alerts through to a system. That was back in the day. And with this agentless monitoring, you just took a Spring application. It's not even our application as Microsoft. You took a partner's application. You put it onto Azure with a little bit of Maven code, and then it just instrumented it all the way to the database. And it made it seem so easy. So yeah, that is a great demo. So I want to show the next little bit. We still have 10 more minutes. I want to go through the Learn module and the homework/workshop that we're going to go through on weeks 2, 3, and 4, and give the audience a little bit of an opportunity to see the inside scoop on what the module is and why they should actually go in that. So I'm going to share my screen, and Charles, thank you so much, and say goodbye to us a little bit later when I'm finished with that, just before, and we can open up for Q&A. So I'm going to share my screen here. And there we go. And I want to share that screen. And I just got a new Rode microphone today. I'm so proud of it. So I really, if you see me speaking close to it, it's just that I'm so proud of it. So if you go into, and this is Google Chrome. Yeah, no, the irony is not lost that I'm a Microsoft employee working on a MacBook, advocating for Java using Google Chrome. So we're going to go to aka.ms/monitor-java. And this is the monitoring module. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. So this is monitoring Java applications on Azure. And this is part of the Java on Azure learning path, which I'm a co-author for also. And this has 16 paths that you can go: introduction to Java on Azure. You can go to choosing the right Azure service for deploying your application, deploy a Spring Boot app to Azure, deploy a Java web app, microservices using Spring Cloud, Redis cache, Jakarta EE application, Azure GitHub Actions or Azure Pipelines, JMS or Azure Service Bus, Active Directory. There's Redis cache there. NoSQL Cosmos DB. Develop using IntelliJ, and then also develop using Maven, serverless functions. And then finally, right at the bottom is the one that I was talking about, monitoring Java apps on Azure. So you can click through there and you can see this is where you're going to start. So it gives you your learning objectives, your prerequisites, and then your the introduction and the breakdown. So in the introduction there, it'll tell you a little bit about what is monitoring on Java, why the monitoring forms, which we discussed, logs, traces, and metrics, the platforms. And if you remember, this is exactly what I showed you there: analytics, application insights, and then it's going to go through to the application environment. And in this, you're not going to write any code because you're going to do everything, because this is focusing on monitoring, and it's going to use and create that customer service, visit service, and vet service, the API gateway for the Spring Pet Clinic application, like Charles just actually demoed, except we're going to do a microservice version of that. And that's going to go in and clone a repo called the MS-Learn monitoring repo. And you're just going to run a script. You're going to edit the script. You're going to add some environment variables, what your name of your resource group is, what region do you want it in, or if you want to leave it as default, the service cloud name you want to use, MySQL name, the admin name you want to use, the MySQL password, something strong and good, please, and then long, and then the workspace. Now, you can actually use the same name for everything there if you wanted, except for the MySQL name. So you can actually say Bob's uncle for your resource group. Your region, you need to use West Europe or East US. Your Spring Cloud service name can be Bob's uncle, and then your MySQL admin password needs to be something strong. So you're going to save that file, and you're going to run the script there. You're going to go bash deploy Pet Clinic, and it's going to run. It's going to take about 20 to 30 minutes there. And this is what it looks like when you're going to run the application there. So I'm going to go into my Azure portal, and you're going to open up Cloud Shell, because we're running you don't have to have anything on your PC. Sorry, I should have started with that. You don't have to have anything installed in your PC, because we're going to run in Azure Cloud Shell. And the Cloud Shell here, if I just zoom in here, so this is the Cloud Shell, and you can just go Cloud Shell, and it runs a terminal there that has everything, even a code editor, the Visual Studio Code editor in there that you can run. And all I've done really is you're going to git clone that. You're going to change the environment variables to your names of your choice for your applications. Then you're going to go and run the script, and it's going to set up everything for you. So don't close the window, because this is your IDE environment. So I've already done that. If you go into my learning module there, and I've got monitoring. So this is where I git cloned it. And if you see there, I've got the deploy Pet Clinic application there. And then you're just going to go bash and deploy Pet Clinic app. That's what you're going to do. And so when that's going to not run, because I've actually got my environment already set up, and it's going to download the sample application for the Spring Pet Clinic microservices. It's going to run through it and build your application. Then it's going to deploy your microservices for you, create your Azure Spring Cloud, your MySQL database, all of that there, and go there. This should actually fail because I've already got a MySQL database there. So once you've got that running, you can actually go in and let's go check the application. We're going to go to a lot more detail on week 2, 3, and 4 with this. So let's leave that running there. And this is the you can see I've called it Reactor Monitor application. And in it, I've got my apps there, and you've got all of those apps there. And the admin server, API gateway, customer service, vet service, visit service. And that's exactly what we're going to go through. And we're going to use this example as we progress through week 2, 3, and 4 to show you how monitoring on Azure works. You can have a cloud microservice using Azure Spring Cloud, and then you're going to be able to see monitoring, but not only an application, a microservice app running on Kubernetes. That is our real product called Azure Spring Cloud. It's going to be really exciting to do that. One thing I do need to tell you is that if you want to play around with this, don't leave the Azure Spring Cloud running. It is costed the same as AKS. Azure Kubernetes instance, just a little bit more than AKS. So you are going to incur costs. So what I do is that I go and delete my resource group for my application. So you can run the script as many times as you want. I run it like 2 to 3 times a day. It takes like 20 to 30 minutes to build it up. But as soon as I build it up, I play around with it a little bit, and then I just I tear it down at the end. And to do that, you can see there, it's it didn't like that the MySQL database already exists there. So I've got a little script. If it doesn't work, the script, it actually goes in and deletes the resource group for you. It's clever because you don't want those resources just hanging around there. So theoretically, it should have actually gone in and deleted my resource group there because it doesn't want that access to do this. So let's go check in there, and we want to go into resource groups. There we go. And we want to see, is it going to delete it? And it should have actually deleted it there, Reactmon. If not, it's busy deleting it there. So while it's busy deleting, you can also tell it to delete faster. You can go delete resource group there, and then you just pop the name of the service there, and then you're going to delete. So important, you want to make sure that that's deleted. You want to make sure that that resource group is deleted there, and then it's going to go in, and you can see they're deleting resource group. And you're going to wait and see that and everything there. So you can start afresh, do it as many times as you want with that script, play around with the monitoring, and we're going to see you next week on the same time to go through week 2, which is we're going to look at logs and log analytics and how to do logging, streaming logging, error handling with logging. And then week 3, we're going to go through and we're going to do application performance monitoring, distributed tracing, and all of those nice little visual dashboards that you saw there. And week 3, I'm going to instrument some JavaScript pages, and Trask and I are going to show you how to do distributed logging across multiple systems there, even all the way through the database. And that really is nifty. So if you want to see where the program is, we'll put the program URL up there. Rav, if you can put the program URL, give a little pop up there. And let's go through exactly and summarize exactly what we saw today. So first step is that we saw the Learn module, and I went through some of the material of the Learn module there and what you can expect. The second step is that we went through the Pet Clinic application. So let me show you that Pet Clinic application again, and you can go Spring-Pet Clinic. You can just kind of Google that or there, and let's go leave that there. So this is the Spring Pet Clinic application, and Trask showed you how to take the Spring Pet Clinic application, pop it into Azure, and go through all of those nice little views, the distributed tracing, the logs, the metrics. He went through all of that. And then finally, I showed you about the monitoring module on, let's go through here. And this is the monitoring module, the monitoring Java applications on Azure. And this goes through all the way through from 0 to hero. You can actually go through, so do some homework, do the workshop. You can see there even it goes through the monitoring application. So if you finish this and you come watch it, you can actually ask questions and really get a heads up on exactly what we're going to do in week 2, week 3, and week 4. And it's going to give you the really great insight into monitoring, not only with Java, but on Azure with the cloud solutions. I want to bring back Trask here for a second, and we're going to say our goodbyes. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching me. And follow Trask and I on Twitter. Let me bring that slide up for a second there. And let's go back there, open recent, and we want to go here. So follow and go access, no, not that one. We want to close that there for a second. And we want to go in and we want to go open recent, and we want to go monitoring series reactor, which is the slide name for that. So follow me on, and Trask, let's go slideshow here. And Rory Preddy and Trask on Trask, Stelnaker, and you can access that material that I showed you again on aka.ms/monitor.java. You can QR code that there. Thank you so much. Trask, any other points or things you want the audience to know about?
No, thank you all for listening. Look forward to seeing you next week.
I think Trask and I are on the different parts of the world. Trask is on Portland, Oregon, and I'm in South Africa, Johannesburg. Literally, we're on the other sides of the world. If they weren't, they were furthest of each other, except for like maybe Alaska and Australia. That's about all of the things that we can. So thank you, everyone, for today, and we look forward to seeing you on week 2. Thanks, Rav.